This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
And welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, it is Thursday here in Pittsburgh, and more national mock drafts are coming out that are mocking a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Dart.
Namely,
to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'm telling you, again and again, you're not seeing that anywhere in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
You're only seeing it from the national guys because the Steelers haven't signed a quarterback yet.
Right.
It would be such a panic move.
I 100% agree.
I don't see it happening.
I was just telling these guys that in the last 24 hours, I've studied these top 5 quarterbacks. I made a focus of it. Shuck, Milroe, Dart, been the top 2. And maybe it's just because it's on the tip of my tongue, but I like them all more than I used to. I can see the path where they all being good players. And they all have their warts, of course. And basically, my big conclusion is this quarterback class doesn't stink.
No, I don't think it does either. And don't misconstrue that.
This is a terrible class. This is the Ritter, Pickett, terrible, worst class ever. E.J. Manuel. No, I don't think so. I also think that if you are a national mock drafter, you want to get him in the first round because you think he's going in the first round, and you're not going to send him to the Chargers or the Broncos or the Bills or whatever.
The one that made sense to me that I saw, and I can't remember who did it, had the Rams taking him at 26.
Yeah. That's one that would actually make some sense.
Yeah.
And if you're not allowed to do trades, okay, you just want to cover your butt and say, I had Jackson Dart in the first round a month ago, But I don't think it makes sense for the Steelers. I really don't. I think the quarterback comes next year, and you prepare for that accordingly. And Dart's fine. I just don't know that he's special. There's a lot of things I do like about him, but I think as much as any quarterback in this draft, he should sit the entire year. And I'm not giving up a D tackle to do that.
That's the thing. If you had a second-round pick,
it's a different world.
It's a different world. To take a quarterback who you have no intention of starting this year at 21 and then not picking again until 83 doesn't help your roster out at all this year.
No. I mean, you're really punting on this draft.
I get it. If he's a generational talent,
it doesn't matter, right?
Fine. Yeah, that's fine. Here's the thing.
Be pretty convinced he's special.
So Todd McShay broke down the last 2 drafts. Where he ranked the quarterbacks for 2024, 25.
Coincidentally, I was listening to his podcast on the way here, and he was all quarterback stuff.
The classes combined. He had Caleb. He has them in tiers.
Mm-hmm. He has a grade next to him, and all those grades mean something.
In tier 1 are Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. Caleb Williams is a 96 grade. Jaden Daniels is a 96 grade. Drake May, a 95 grade.
Yep, it's out of 100.
Out of 100.
ESPN made him change. I was part of it. We had to change our grading scale whenever ESPN bought Scouts Inc. when Todd and I became full-time employees at ESPN.
And those tier 1 guys are what he considers elite prospects, should be a day 1 starter, and project as future all-pro caliber players.
They don't get handed out often.
No.
It's pretty rare that 3 of them were in the same class. It's extremely rare. It's nuts.
His tier 2 guys, which he considers a notch below, immediate impact players and eventual high-end starters, worthy of a top 15 pick regardless of the class.
Yeah. It's a good way of rephrasing it.
He has J.J. McCarthy, who scored 92, and Cam Ward, who also scored 92.
Personally, I like Ward more than that version of McCarthy, but I understand it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In tier 3.
And Ward's going to be the first pick in this draft.
Right. Yeah.
And McCarthy might have been if he came out too. Who knows? Whatever.
In tier 3, he has 4 guys, and these are immediate contributors who should quickly develop into starting caliber players, considered quality values in the bottom half of round 1 in any given draft class. Mm-hmm. Michael Penix, Bo Nix, Shedeur Sanders, and Jackson Dart. He gives them all a 90 grade.
Okay. And Todd will be the first to admit that even if they're in there, they're quarterbacks, so they get pushed up a little. Like at this time, we didn't know Nix was going to be a first-round pick or where Penix would fall,
But I don't want to draft a tier 3 guy just because.
Just because Aaron Rodgers retired.
Yeah.
Or just because you couldn't land Fields, heaven forbid.
If he would have gone, if he goes back a few years on this,
right,
that's where Kenny Pickett came in at.
Probably, yeah. I bet that's exactly where he's at. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I want to shoot past that. And so you've got.
I went in the group above.
I want a tier 2 or I want a tier 1 guy.
Yeah.
Not a tier 3 guy. I don't. I just don't.
I mean, speaking of tiers, I'm sure it's due to come out soon, but we always talk about Sando's quarterback tiers. I'll promise you, tier 1 will have 4 people in it this year.
Yeah.
Burrow, Allen, Mahomes, and Jackson, and you got to play them all the time. I need at least a tier 2 guy.
Right.
You know
I need somebody that
right.
and has the potential to go toe-to-toe with those guys, not a game manager.
Right. Jalen Hurts is a tier 2 guy. He won the Super Bowl.
Yeah. You can win with those guys.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to win with a tier 3 guy.
And I would much rather, and I did a long podcast on it, I would much rather build the nest this year to land that guy next year. And I don't even know if he exists next year, but I will take door number 2 with more line help, all those picks that you're going to get from the comp world. I got a lot of spare change in my pocket. I'm going shopping for a Rolex next 13 months from now. I'm going to get a Rolex.
Yeah. Doesn't mean I don't take one of these guys at some point later in this draft.
Maybe. You might get lucky, and he might be awesome. He might be Dak Prescott.
But I'm not using my first round pick on a guy who I think they've gone down this road.
Yeah.
We talked about it when they drafted Kenny Pickett. His ceiling was Derek Carr.
Cousins-ish or whatever. Yeah.
I'm not interested in that.
Right.
You went down that road once. You swung and you missed on it. And Kenny Pickett may turn out to be that guy someday, and God bless him if he does.
Sure.
But I want better than that. If I'm taking a quarterback in the first round, I want better than that.
Yep. And big thing I've been really focusing on is building the nest while trying to still win today. I mean, that doesn't mean I'm never saying tank. I hope Aaron Rodgers signs 3 minutes from now and I roll it back with a better offense than what I think I saw last and take my chances. But in the meanwhile, I'm building lines of scrimmage. I'm getting assets to go get that Rolex. You know? And I don't think that's that hard to do. I think there's a path.
McShay's tier 4 guy, he's only got one guy in there, and that is Tyler Shuck.
Yeah.
And that's a grade out as a plus future NFL starters at a minimum, typically not higher tier due to underdevelopment or other red flags. Considered good value in early round 2, though many are selected late in the first round, and that's Shuck.
I can see that, yeah.
And age is a big factor there.
Yeah. He's had 3 injuries. 2 of them are 2 broken clavicles. One
the
of
other
them
was a broken leg.
A broken leg. I mean, they're not recurring knees or, things that you really worry about. But he is older. I mean, if he were to come to Pittsburgh with Rodgers, that's 1 more year that he doesn't start, or anywhere he lands. If he goes to the Rams with Stafford, it might be 2 more years before he starts. But all in all, age doesn't worry me. I mean, I think maturity is huge. I mean, goofy things, like he was the only quarterback to run a 40. He doesn't care. I mean, I'm going to go out there and run a 4.64 as a big, strong dude. Great. My biggest concern with him isn't age or injuries. He's not real laterally.
He's just a bigger guy.
He's a bigger dude, and in the pocket, he'll take sacks and doesn't love the contact, but his toughness is great. Everyone knows I'm a fan. I mean, I think he's a round 1, round 2 border, turn guy.
He has nobody in tier 5, which are grayed out as future solid to good NFL starters, might need to serve situational roles early in the career, mid to late second round value. In tier 6, which is guys who grade out as potential adequate to solid NFL starters, typically come off the board in round 3, he has Will Howard, Jalen Milroe, Quinn Ewers, and they rank ahead of Spencer Rattler, who went later last year.
I think Milroe's so much better than those other names or more enticing.
Milroe has the highest upside to me of any quarterback in this draft.
Yep.
Because of what he can do with his legs.
And he's super smart, and he's already a deep passer.
Yeah.
The leg stuff's there. He's a high character dude. I mean, all that kind of stuff too. And it's funny, I mentioned I was listening to the podcast before, I'm on the way here, and I sat in the car for the last 5 minutes just to hear the end of the conversation about Milroe. And he brought up some things that we have talked about before too, is he's so muscle bound that he's tight. The way Todd explained it was get out of the weight room and just do flexibility stuff. And we've brought that up. But the thing I hadn't thought of that Todd brought up was he said, I remember when Brady Quinn came out, when Tebow came out, and Levis came out, and those were my exact same criticisms of all those guys. They think they're bodybuilders. You know, they're not preparing themselves to be great NFL passers with flexible arm angles and all this stuff. But what Todd said that I didn't think of is he's like, but Milroe won't be a first-round pick.
Right.
So he has time. It's not get Tebow in there immediately, get Brady Quinn in there immediately. They don't have time to change their bodies and all these things, where Milroe can just be your wildcat gadget guy on game day and sit and work on his body for 500 days, until you need him.
Yeah, I just think, to me, he is, the most – we're back to where we were in January on this whole thing. He would be the guy that would interest me in round 3 or 4.
Me too. But again, not having a second-round pick complicates all of this, but that's okay.
It's one of the reasons why we trade back pretty consistently to get that second-round pick, or at least something comparable to that second round, something in between 21 and 83.
But I am on this huge kick of I want a Rolex. I want to build the nest, so if I don't get a quarterback this year, I don't get a quarterback this year, and I'd rather have DK Metcalf because he's going to be here next year for that first-round pick, and if that nest is a soft landing spot with a running game in place and linemen and Metcalf and maybe Pickens, I mean, that's the way it goes. Prepare it for a soft landing.
My thing with, just to get back to Dart, the one game that I actually sat down to watch him play last year, the whole thing, the whole way through, was the Florida game.
Okay, yeah.
And the defense kept getting him the football back. They're down 7, and he kept throwing interceptions, bad ones.
Oh, he has some head scratchers.
And I'm like, I want to like this kid. I see the stats, and I want to like what I see here, and I just didn't.
Yeah.
I just didn't. Now, I could see somebody falling in love with him, and the overall game is good.
Yeah.
I just don't know that he can be great.
There was a lot of instances, especially later in the season, SEC schedule against the good teams, the Floridas, the Bamas, et cetera. And I don't have reference to every game, but where those teams just start taking the deep ball away, start taking the first read away and making them improv and check it down and go through reads, which isn't what that offense is about. I mean, it is such a predetermined read-based offense from how I understand. They put the Mickey Mouse thing up and you throw it to this guy. And then the Mississippi offense wasn't that good, and despite having a lot of good players.
Yeah, I just, to me, I would just rather not take. I'm not taking one at 21. I'm just not. Right. I'm not doing that. I'm taking somebody.
That includes Shedeur for me too.
Who's going to help my team this year?
Yeah.
And a quarterback, even if I take him in the first round, isn't going to do that. And I would much rather, have, again, to your point, have the nest in place, have everything else in place around him. This idea that the Steelers are so far away from competing is utter horse crap.
It is.
They've made the playoffs in 4 of the last 5 years.
Yep.
If they had missed the playoffs in 4 of the last 5 years, we know they haven't won a playoff game.
We're aware.
We're well aware.
Got it.
But you're not far. If you're making the playoffs with Kenny Pickett, with Russell Wilson, with the ghost of Ben Roethlisberger, you're making the playoffs with those teams. You've got a pretty good roster.
You got a pretty good roster, and you know how to win games in this league. Right. Despite not having quarterbacks just put you on their back with a cape.
So I want that rookie quarterback to be able to drop into that.
Yes.
Who is Jaden Daniels like?
Yeah. Right.
Now we're working. Give me Drake May. Now we're working with something. Drake May had nothing around him last year.
That's not how you win playoff games. That's how you win Super Bowls.
Right. That's what you're looking to do. Right. That's what they did with Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah. Exactly.
They took Ben Roethlisberger. Now I understand they had fallen backwards in 2003. But 2 years before that, they were a 13-3 team. They had the best record in the AFC.
Right.
They were a playoff team in 2002. They were a playoff game.
And with all respect to Ben, his rookie year with a 1-loss season wasn't because he had an S on his chest with a cape.
He managed the game and made some plays that others couldn't. Here and there.
Right. I mean, you start to, and then he gets the confidence and he grows.
And in year 2, they win the Super Bowl. That's the ideal situation to put that young quarterback in.
Yep.
Your offensive line is now it's gelled.
Yeah.
They're all in year 3 or better.
Yes.
At that point. And that's how you win.
So this is my latest kick, and it's all about all those things. I think the Steelers need to draft 4 linemen in this draft. 2-0, 2D.
I don't see it happening.
And one of them is the D lineman in round 1.
I don't see them drafting 2 offensive linemen in this draft.
I think they should, because those are the things you can't get. And I'm talking like a 3rd-round tackle and a 6th-round guard.
It's not going to happen.
Because I can live without an extra receiver. I can live without a running back. I can live without Rourke. You know what I mean?
They've drafted 5 offensive linemen in the last 2 drafts.
And it's worked out well. Keep it up.
I could see them taking another one, but not in round 3. If they take one, they're going to have a bunch of extra picks next year, presumably.
Exactly. Right.
If you want to do it next year. This offensive line draft is
not
not
the right
good.
Guys. I'm
not
not
good.
Just going for nothing, but I want projects. I want Grant out of William and Mary. I want those type of dudes.
If it's a guy like that, we've taken those guys consistently. I'm not taking 2 of them, though.
An interior guy, too. I don't think Ciamalu's going to be back. I want that line to be a strength by then. It's Fatanu's 3rd year. It's Jones's 4th. Do we know that Jones is going to be a 5th-year option pickup guy? I can find other things. Give me linemen, and they don't all have to develop. Kendrick Green was a 3rd-round pick and was a pretty bad football player for a long stretch, and they traded him in camp for a 6th. Despite all that talent.
I get it.
You drive those guys off the lot, and they don't depreciate. Sometimes they go up in value. Dan Moore's the best example ever. I can live without a receiver. I can go sign a Van Jefferson. I can sign J.K. Dobbins to get me through the year.
I'd rather if they did take 4 linemen in this draft,
big men, 300-pounders.
If they took 4 300-pounders in this draft, I'd rather be 3 defensive linemen.
Maybe. I just don't know if there's room for them on the roster.
I'd find room for them.
Yeah, trust me, I would not object to that either.
In a draft where there's 24 guys that these McShay and guys like that have startable grades on. Give me 4 of those guys.
It wouldn't break my heart either. I want big people that are hard to find. I want assets that are difficult to find. You can't go get them in the free agent market. That to me, that's
the Steelers didn't get a defensive tackle in free agency. They were all $20 million.
Right. I'm not shopping in that.
I'm not paying them more than I'm paying Cam Hayward. I just gave Cam Hayward a new deal last year that pays him $15 million a year for the remainder of his career, and he was first-team All-Pro last year.
And he's great. Right.
And he's great. What does that do to your locker room if I then go out and pay somebody else $20?
Right.
When I told Cam, well, here's what we're going to give you. We'll give you $15.
Right.
But we're going to give this guy $20 who's never played a down for us.
Just keep drafting him.
And I think
offensive tackle's the exact same thing to me, but even more so because Dan Moore's worth $20 million in a 3rd-round pick.
I've got no problem drafting 1 lineman in this draft. Now, if it happens to be 2, if that works out that way, if that's the best value in the 7th round,
I'm taking 6th, 7th round for a guard center type guy.
I'm not using a premium pick on one of these guys unless I think, okay, that's Ciamalu's replacement next year.
Yeah.
That's different.
Right. That's my thoughts. Is I want 11 real ones in camp. They never go down in value. It's just economics. It's not necessarily team needs or any of that. I'm not real worried about the O-line. It's just economics. Like, anytime that anyone drafts a tackle, I'm like, I get it. You can't get them.
Anyways, let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I'm Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt Miller on ESPN has put together a mock draft of all 257 picks.
It's an ordeal. That's an endeavor. I would hate that job.
Well, we do this regularly every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday when we do our mock drafts. We just don't tell everybody what all 257
Well, we
picks
don't
are.
make the choices for
There's that.
31 other teams.
Who knows?
Either.
Maybe he doesn't go through and make every choice.
Who knows? I don't know. But it is an endeavor. I give him credit for that much.
But I thought we would walk this through and talk about who he does have the Steelers taking here.
While we do it, let's say who we would have taken that's still out there.
Without a doubt. Yeah, that's going to happen. So at pick 21, he has the Steelers taking Azareye'h Thomas, the cornerback out of Florida State.
I don't see it at all.
I don't see it at all.
No.
Azareye'h Thomas ran a 4.57 40 at his combine. Now, he is a good-sized cornerback.
He's a
6'1",
freshman.
200 pounds, basically.
I'd love to see him opposite Joey for the next 8 years.
Not at pick 21.
No.
And here's the thing you need to understand about 40 times at pro days. You can automatically add 0.05 to that time because that's what they would have ran in Indianapolis. So you're going to tell me you're going to take a 4.6 cornerback.
He didn't run at Indy? I don't remember.
I don't remember if he did or not.
If so, he didn't blaze.
Yeah.
And I like him.
I think he's a good player.
Yeah.
He's a one-year starter on the worst Florida State team in the history of Florida State.
He's a big man corner.
And I understand it wasn't the defense that was the problem. It was the offense. But the defense then faltered down the stretch.
Right. Like, that doesn't mean I wouldn't take Farmer or
I like Azareye'h Thomas.
Yeah.
I would take him in the second round.
I just say he's a round 2 player for me. And it's a want. It's not a need.
Yeah.
It would be nice. But if they don't draft a corner at all, I'm going to sleep fine the night after the draft.
At least he didn't have them taking a quarterback. He did have Jackson Dart. This is the one where Jackson Dart goes to the Rams at 26.
Okay.
That makes sense.
That makes a ton of sense to me, yeah.
But Derek Harmon was available.
I'm going to say who else was out there at 21.
Kenneth Grant was available.
Yeah.
Walter Nolan was available.
We talked those guys to death, but that's not even close. Any of those three to Tom.
Any of those three would fit the bill.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I went through this entire draft earlier today. He doesn't have them taking a single defensive lineman in with any of their picks.
Rewind to segment 1. I think you know our thoughts on that matter.
They don't have a replacement right now for Larry Ogunjobi.
Yeah.
On the roster.
It amazes me how many mocks or national people don't recognize that's a need. Corner is a want.
Right.
A young defensive lineman is a need. If they don't draft one, that is a mistake. Yeah, I mean, I'll say that the day after the draft. I'll say it during the draft. No matter what, they have to draft.
They've got to address that position.
Yes,
and your best defensive lineman is 35 years old.
Absolutely, and I think the mistake is made by, man, that Steeler front is nasty. They can rush the quarterback as well as anyone. Yeah, but you got to prepare for tomorrow too, and depth. And I can't live with Lowry and Lee being my starters. You know what I mean? Like that's not where we're at here.
Those guys are fine players,
right?
But they're
not
rotational. They're rotational players,
right? They're not Steph Tuitt.
If I have to start Dean Lowry September 28th at Baltimore, I know what I'm going to get.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. You're right. It's like starting Mason Rudolph.
If I have to, it's the same thing. Right. If I have to start him 17 games, I don't know that I'm so in on that.
Right. I don't expect every backup to be Steve Young to Montana. Right. It's not the way the world works. Right. But they need a foundational player.
Yes.
To be the next
guy.
Yeah. And it's a perfect time for that guy to get groomed with Hayward on the team.
And the thing is he's got Grant going at 39. He's got Harmon going at the end to the Ravens. In the first round. He then has Grant going at 39, and he has Walter Nolan going at 43 after Tyleik Williams.
Wow. Okay.
I don't see it.
I
don't see it at all.
Right. And I like all four of those guys. I like Williams too. But the other three are different.
Yeah, Tyleik Williams is a fine player.
Sure.
He's not better than Walter Nolan. He's not nearly as good as Kenneth Grant.
Not for today's NFL.
No.
I mean, because he doesn't affect the passing game.
Right.
Yeah. He's going to play far fewer snaps.
I mean, he's got him going like 3 picks ahead of Alfred Collins. Who,
I'm a big Alfred Collins fan, too.
I like Alfred Collins. Right. He's a good player.
If the original picks were still intact and you're like the Steelers took Alfred Collins or Tyreek Williams with their second-round pick, sign me up.
Yeah, right.
I mean, but not.
We've done that.
Yeah.
So then at pick 83, again, after he has them taking a cornerback in the first round, he has them taking Jalen Milroe in the third round.
Okay. That, in a nutshell, I don't hate.
I don't have a problem with that.
We talked about that in segment 1.
But now you've taken – where's Azareye'h Thomas lining up for you in year 1?
Oh, he's fighting Trice for the third job. I mean, his jersey might not get dirty.
So
right.
now
he's running down on kickoffs.
Your first 2 picks in the draft. Now you did get, again, DK Metcalf's part of the team.
Of course, and he helps.
But you've now drafted 2 guys who don't help you at all this year.
Yeah. And again, in a vacuum, Milroe in the third. I get it. I would not object to that
not
at
at all.
I would object to Thomas in the first in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially with who was still on the board.
100%. And he wouldn't be in my top 21 no matter what. So he would not.
No.
He wouldn't be okay.
Then with pick 1, again, there were no trades in this thing.
I can't imagine even doing trades.
At pick 123, Cam Scatterbo, running back out of Arizona State. This is in the 4th round. Now, if he is available in the 4th round,
great.
Okay, great.
He would fit in wonderfully, and he would play a ton, and I don't think any of us are going to complain about that pick in a vacuum.
No, that pick will play. So you finally got a guy in the 4th round who's going to...
I also think that's a need.
Yeah.
As opposed to a want. You have to add a running back.
In the 5th round, he has him taking, at pick 156, Holland Pierce, the offensive tackle out of Rutgers. Again,
that's right up my alley.
That's up your alley, but a guy who he's not going to play at all this year.
No. He might be your 6'0" lineman. He's grooming, but tackles are gold. I'm fine with it.
I got no problem doing that at that point.
Right.
But you've added 1 guy thus far with this particular draft.
The whole plan doesn't make sense.
In round 6, at pick 185, he has him taking Jordan Watkins, wide receiver out of Ole Miss.
I don't know much about him, but a receiver late, sure, but he's going to be your 5th guy. I mean, he's not going to. Is he going to beat out Wilson or Austin for snaps?
No.
I don't think we've ever, or rarely, have taken a wide out past the 5th round in a not deep wide receiver.
I just don't love. I don't love the wide receiver group, and B, where's the path to playing time? Roman Wilson's still part of this team, and Roman Wilson's going to be in their plans. Roman Wilson was the 3rd-round draft pick last year.
And to take a step further, and I don't know enough about the Ole Miss kid except for I've never really heard of him, so he's probably not that great. But that could be on me. Where's his playing time in 2026? I mean, even if Pickens isn't here, he's 4th.
Yeah.
And if Pickens isn't here, someone else is.
Right. They've drafted. They probably draft one, or they signed one.
Yeah.
Something happened there.
Right.
Yeah.
A late dart throw receiver to me in this draft doesn't make much sense.
No. Nor me.
Right.
I mean,
and again, I know Van Jefferson signed somewhere else, but just go sign a Van Jefferson type. If
those guys,
right? They're
the
everywhere.
wide receiver market is.
I mean, those
guys are still getting
everywhere.
signed.
Yeah, that's a better player than that dude is now.
In round 7, at pick 229, the Steelers take Donovan Edwards, running back out of Michigan. So they take 2 running backs.
Yeah, very different ones.
Very different ones. Where's his playing time coming from?
Mm-hmm. I think he's really bad, to be honest with you, but he's talented. He tests well. He was a big-time recruit.
I mean, he could be a kick returner for you, but
he's a 7th-round pick, so I'm not going to kill that pick in a vacuum either. He probably would be a kickoff return guy for you, but you have that dude in Gainwell. I mean, it's a 7th-round pick. I'm not going to kill him, but
here's the thing:
there's no plan there.
I'm just looking at the guys who are still available at that point. Yaha Black was there.
Oh, that's great.
I would take the 3rd. Well, he didn't take any defensive line.
Right. I say there's especially 0. I would take him Black 2 rounds ago.
Yeah. O'Donnell Fortune, the cornerback out of South Carolina. He's a decent prospect. I would take,
especially if you took Grant in the 1st round,
right?
Instead of the corner, right?
That's the way to work this draft. He's doing kind of backwards.
I know I'm on my kick about big guys, but I almost think if you don't get AD tackle with your first pick, it's the draft is not all for loss, but it's not the way to start your process. Even as good as the D tackles are, there's other guys I like at 21 or even 25, but if it's not one of those top 3 D tackles that are real difference makers, you're going to have a tough time selling me on why that's the answer. Unless you happen to love Jackson Dart and you think he's Mahomes. Great. Okay.
Well,
if that's what you believe, you believe it.
Part of the problem of going down that path of not taking one in the 1st round.
Right. it gets so messy after that.
It really does. I'm just going to look and see.
I want a second one.
Who is still available here at 83 when they in this instance he has him taking Milroe. Shamar Turner.
Okay. We haven't talked much about him.
He's a good player.
I like him. Yeah,
He's a good player, but he's not one of the,
he's not Nolan.
He's not one of those top three guys or four guys. I
mean, he's a rotational dude for you. For
TJ Sanders was still there.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Who else?
I assume he had a lot going. In
Jordan
the first.
Phillips was there.
Oh, okay.
Jordan Phillips would.
Yeah. I'm a fan.
Play nose for you.
And again, I'm not saying they're better picks than Milroe, but if you don't take one in the first round,
that's the thing.
Now we're
J.J. Pegues was there. You just can't. Yes, there are other guys available later, but if you pass on one in the first round to then take a quarterback in the third round, because you got to take a running back. At some point, you need another running back. The way this draft lines up, it's not that hard. It's not that difficult. This is the puzzle.
That's why you've set it up the way you have.
Yeah, the puzzle is not that hard to put together here. The pieces are about this big.
Right.
I'm holding my hands pretty far apart.
And the only thing that
I've got like 5 of them. There's the pieces. Okay, there's the puzzles put together.
Yep. Because receiver puzzle piece has been filled, right?
Yeah, that was the main piece that's already on the board.
And of course, it'd be much easier to build it with the second round pick, but then you would have the receiver puzzle built. You know?
Yeah.
Forget what I was going to say there though. Oh, okay. Like we like some of those fourth round options: Phillips, Piggies, all those dudes. I mean, you named 5 or 6 of them that are quality players that I hope end up in Latrobe. Whatever. But if you do that, your biggest need, then you got to take one next year.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, then I'm not saying you pass on a quarterback to take one, but you didn't fill the need. I mean, you didn't find the next Hayward. You didn't find your difference maker.
They passed on, in this particular draft, Cam Jackson and Jamari Caldwell in the 4th round to take Scatabo. Because you took 2 pieces early
right,
that aren't going to play for you.
Yeah. The mistake was made at Thomas.
Yeah.
Because
it sends you down a bad path.
That's what I'm
saying.
The
same reason why taking a quarterback in the first round.
No.
Unless he's awesome. Unless he's awesome.
Then nothing else matters.
If Cam Ward were there, yes, I would take Cam Ward.
Sure. And if they take Dart, I hope I'm wrong about him and he turns out to be awesome. They know more than me. I don't think that's what they're going to do.
I don't think so either.
And back to what I said 5 minutes ago, if it's not one of those premium defensive tackles, the rest gets messy without a second-round pick.
It gets very messy.
Yeah.
It gets very messy. And in that
choose your own
instance,
adventure book, and you just ran into the dragon right in the first, right off the bat,
On purpose.
Right, on purpose, right. There's
Somebody said, hey, there's a dragon down that way. There's nothing over here. There's the princess is over here, the dragon's over there.
Yeah.
You say, well, I want to fight the dragon.
Right. This is level 1 of adventure on,
I don't want to kiss the princess. I want to fight the damn dragon.
You can't even beat level 1. Right.
It's not how it's done.
Because once that's in place, then you're playing with house money.
Yeah. Now you can.
Okay, you want to running back the 3rd round, or do you wait to the 5th?
Right.
Either would be fine.
Right. Yeah. Now I can do that. Now I can make. I want to take a quarterback in the 3rd round. Great.
I have a 2nd round grade on Milroe, and he's sitting there in the 3rd.
Fantastic.
Okay, I got Ralder.
That whole draft looks so much different, and I feel so much differently about it. If they take, instead of taking Thomas at 21, they take Kenneth Grant, or they take one of the other
guys. And the rest
guys.
of it's fine then. It would be like, nice job, Matt Miller. You did a good job. You got Scatabo in the 4th. You got
right.
right.
Other than the wide receiver that they took, I'm like, oh, okay.
That's a 6th-round pick. I mean, again,
there were other defensive tackles still available that I could have taken.
Yeah, and we would end up with 2 DTs.
And I'd be happy. Mm-hmm. And it's not just because that's what we do every time we do a mock draft. There's a reason.
That's why we do a million mock drafts.
There's a reason why we do that.
Yeah.
In the mock drafts.
Yeah, that's why we do so many.
And
we wouldn't have come to this conclusion a month ago.
I think so many national mock drafts that are out there are just completely swinging and missing on what this Steelers roster the current makeup of the roster is.
Mm-hmm. And why they've been to the playoffs all these years. It's not because the great quarterbacks the last 5 years. It's because of Cam Hayward.
Yeah. TJ Watt and Minka Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
And,
And I know they haven't won a playoff game, folks.
We're well aware. We're well aware.
Don't need to remind me.
Anyways.
But they do have a streak of seasons without a losing season. I don't know if anyone's aware of that.
Well, their goal every year is to win 9 games. That's the goal.
Well, that's all they're trying to do.
I keep hearing that one too. Like, the goal is just to win 9 games, or to go 9-8, which they've done exactly one time in their entire history. They've gone 9-8 once. Anyways, I just put it out there on Twitter. So if you're listening and you want to check it out, or the X Twitter, as it were, if you have any questions you want to ask us here, we'll get to those in hour number 2.
Twitter Thursday. Let's go.
Yeah, it's Twitter Thursday. Check that out at. I can't even remember what my Twitter.
I'm Matt Williamson, NFL.
Yeah, he retweeted it on there.
Yeah.
I got to think of what mine is. I'm at @Lolley_Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So you can check that out there. We've already got a bunch on there already.
I bet.
Let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, we've seen some of the stuff that the competition committee has put out there. We've seen what some of the teams have thrown out there for teams to talk about this weekend and the next weekend. They'll start on Sunday with the league meetings on Sunday down in West Palm Beach. We'll be down there.
Into the Drive on Sunday.
There you go.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that you looked at that you say, boy, I can't believe that didn't come up? I've got one for you.
Well, yes, get it started.
The double tap on the foot. We saw it a couple of times last year.
The double. Oh, yeah. I got asked about that.
Came down
today.
twice.
I wanted to look into it.
Twice with the same foot.
And it was no count.
And it did not count. And nobody brought that up as a potential rule change.
That's funny because I got 2 separate tweets today out of the blue asking about that. And I'm like, I should look into that. I assume that came up because it seems like it should be talked about, and it didn't. I think that should be a rule change. I mean, isn't that as equally difficult to do?
You would think. If my butt counts, if my elbow counts,
why
the hell is not hitting my foot twice? Why does that not count?
I mean, I know it's a goofy conversation, but it really could happen. You could throw a swing pass to a running back on the sidelines who catches it awkwardly, hops on one foot 5 times, gets knocked out of bounds, catch.
He pulls his hamstring,
right,
and doesn't, and therefore, or sprained his ankle and hops down the sideline and gets out of bounds for like a 4-yard gain.
No catch.
No catch.
Yep. Sorry, that's coming back. That's crazy to me. I mean, let alone the Pickens stuff that we saw.
Yeah.
No, that's a good one. I had something else on my noodle. What I were saying that I don't remember now though. But that is definitely a good one. I don't know. Is there any other ones that come to mind? Oh. Maybe these young pups can tell us, what's the blow in your nose thing or whatever that's now a 15-yard penalty? You're not allowed to wipe your nose or something? I don't know what that means.
Apparently, it's a gang sign.
Okay.
So they don't want the players throwing up gang signs on the field. I got no problem whatsoever with that.
If that's true, cool. I mean, these guys have face masks on and they don't get to their nose, but I just know that I don't know the answer to that. That's why I was throwing it out there.
It's a gang. Yeah, you can't throw up gang signs on the field. I got no issue whatsoever with that.
Okay. I assumed it had something to do like the throat cut thing or, frowned upon. Right. Exactly. Okay. But I just wanted to bring that up. Like,
here's the thing about
the problem with
the taunting and the signs and things like that of that nature and, shooting guns and all this. Mm-hmm. We obviously know that they're not shooting a gun.
Of course.
We know that they're not doing these things. The problem becomes when kids emulate that.
I know that's what they're going
at
with.
The youth level.
Yeah.
I was coaching. This is years ago, and I got asked to help coach my son's football team. And at that point, we're still they were like 3rd and 4th graders.
Okay.
And so the coaches are behind the line of scrimmage on both sides, and one of our running backs breaks free, and as he's running down the sideline, he turns around and starts holding the ball back and high-stepping into the kid behind him. And I immediately went to the end zone. I'm like, look, we don't do that.
Mm-hmm. That's a great way not to play.
Yeah, but we do. No, I'm like, we don't do that. I saw it. No, I don't care where you saw it, what you saw it. That is not good sportsmanship. We don't do that because if one of those other kids came down here and dove at your knee right now, I would understand it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Right, which also is a good sportsmanship, but you earned it.
But you earned it. You want to talk. You want to walk the walk on the field and talk the talk. You better be ready to back it up.
Mm-hmm.
And
I do know that. I mean, obviously, there's some that shouldn't get called, or they go too far. To me, like I wish I remember the conversation, but it was like 2 years ago where the receiver kind of walked over the corner and taunted him.
Yeah.
And after the game, they interviewed him. He's like, "We were college roommates. He's like one of my best friends. We're just laughing with each other on the field." The ref doesn't.
They don't know that.
But it's,
But again, it becomes a situation where if you don't call it, the league goes, "Well, he just put his crotch in that guy's face when he stepped over him." And now some kid's going to see that and do it in a high school game or a grade school game and think that's okay.
Yeah, and frankly, it's not like when we grew up when. If you didn't see it live, you're not going to see it. It's not going to be on your phone in 10 seconds, and every kid in the world is going to see it. I get it. And I'm so naive, I don't know what the nose thing is and what they all mean. But, no, I understand it. But I'm sure it does take a little fun out of it. Not illegal, nasty things. I just mean being dudes, But I understand it.
I mean, look, when I played sports, I'd make a big basket or whatever, pump the fist or whatever.
Sure.
But I'm not, up in the guy's face. Hey, you're too short or whatever.
Yeah,
It's stupid.
Right.
It's stupid.
Or like in baseball, if you show up a pitcher on a home run, you probably get some chin music, right? I mean, or at least you used to when Nolan Ryan and Bob Gibson were out there in the mound, or when I paid attention.
Nothing makes me angry.
I had a feeling you had a hunch on this one. Yeah.
And the guy does the whole bat flip. We had one. We're at a tournament where I had a 16U team.
Okay. So these are big. They know better.
Right.
Yeah.
But my entire roster, or about 3/4 of my roster, were actually 14-year-olds. We're playing in the 16U semifinals of this tournament. And we're beating this team that
they're older.
They thought that they were going to cakewalk over us, and we're beating them. When one of their guys in the bottom of the 5th inning hits a home run to put them up 3-2 or 4-3, whatever it was, our dugout's on the first base side. They're on the third base side. Turns to our dugout and does the bat flip like 50 feet in the air and stands there and watches. I got my 14-year-old pitcher on the mound who's pitching a gem against these guys, and that jagoff does that.
Mm-hmm.
And then left the bat there, laying there, after he came back in. And it's still laying there, and it's still laying there.
After he rounds the bases.
The bases. But, hey, he hit a home run. Good for him.
That's a great play. Right,
Good for you.
Right. So it's a long touchdown.
Still laying there.
Right, yeah.
The next batter's coming up to the plate. I'm like, I yell over to dugout, hey, when are you guys going to come over here and take this bat back to your dugout before it ends up somewhere where you're not going to want it? And
throw it in the woods.
Yeah. Turns out he was the first. Now, he was the first baseman. I was coaching first base in this game. He was the first baseman. I've talked to the entire game. I didn't even realize it was him that did it.
Yeah.
And I'm out there talking to the umpire in between innings, and I'm talking about, I hate that bat flip crap. It's such, showing up.
I mean,
pitcher.
it's 100% showing up the pitcher. Right?
Toss the bat or do whatever. Yeah. Even if I've hit home runs before, and I'm like, oh yeah, I hit that. I mean, I've jogging the first base, watching to see it land. You don't want to be the guy who jogs the first base and it doesn't get out. But I knew when I hit one, it was going out.
Yeah. But it used to be there wasn't a backflip thing. You just sit there at home plate and wait. Yeah. And then you knew Bob Gibson was going to hit you in the face.
Then you're going to get hit.
Yeah, right.
So we come back then, beat them. We walk them off.
Oh, nice.
Actually, that was in the top of the 5th. We walk them off in the top of the 7th. Half their team wouldn't shake my hand. I'm like, I don't care, because that was Bush League stuff. That You essentially, not only did you flip the bat, again, 40 feet in the air, you then stared at our dugout after you did it. Like, oh, look at me, I'm flexing at my dugout. Get out of here with that crap. I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
If he had come up again, he would have wore a baseball.
I was saying, at that level, do they get thrown at?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I assume.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good.
Absolutely.
And even like in higher ups.
I've ordered the code red.
Okay. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
You want to be a jackass on the field, you're going to.
Yeah.
There
should be. Sometimes does the next hitter get it? Like if the dude hitting third.
It would depend on where. I mean, it depends.
Okay.
Where you at in the game, the situation of the game. I'm not automatically I'm not plunking the next guy because that guy was a jackass.
Okay.
But if he comes up again and we've got an open base.
Right. I'm at least going to let him know.
Yeah, you're going to at least see one high and, not high and tight, but you're going to see one inside that.
Yeah.
So
I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about like taking out the knee if a guy's
I'm not for
high
that.
stepping.
Well, another
but
example is
I'm talking about
we're in a
stuff.
game and the first baseman is blocking the bag every time. He's got his entire foot, and he's got a big foot.
Mm-hmm.
I got runners on first, and they're diving back into first base, and he's blocking the bag with his foot.
Oh,
And I
okay.
said something to the umpire about it. I'm like, he's not allowed to block the bag without the ball because
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
doing it when he's waiting for the. You can't block the bag. You got to give the runner.
Okay. Yeah, they have to have free access back to.
And so I said something to the umpire about it, and he says, "Well, I can't do anything about it unless there's an actual play there that he actually blocks."
Okay. Yeah.
I said, "Okay, if you're not going to tell him to do it," I went to I knew which kid to go to.
Yeah.
I said, "Hey, if you get on first base and he's
the fourth line left wing is who
and
you
he's
go to,
blocking
right.
the bag like that,
Yeah.
I don't want you to get a huge lead, but when you come back in, I want you to dive into his leg.
Yeah,
We're not
yeah.
trying to hurt him."
You're not spiking them.
No, but you're going back. You're going back, and
yeah.
your shoulder's going into his leg.
If you're going to get in the way,
I want him to know that he's got to not block that bag. We did it. They threw over twice. The kid he hits him right in the knee both times. The kid comes, "Oh man, that hurt." I'm like, and the umpire looks at me and goes, "Coach, that's old school." I'm like, took care of the problem. He won't do that again.
yeah. And frankly, if you were my coach and that was my 8-year-old on your team, that's how I would want them coached. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if they're going to break, there's old school isn't all bad.
You're gonna push. You're gonna push the
Right.
boundaries. I'm gonna push him back.
Yeah, yeah. There's
You know?
ways. You're not the first one that thought of this, or right. Yeah.
And I'm sure his dad's sitting in the stands going, "Well, I taught him how to block the bag." I've had that conversation with people before too. "Well, that's what I taught him to do." Well, you taught him
You might have
wrong.
taught him wrong, right?
Yeah.
Right. That's why you're not coaching.
So, anyways, yeah, I get all the not wanting that kind of stuff in the game.
No, I get it too. And the world's so small.
And
now.
I'm not against celebrations and that kind of
No,
stuff. That's
right,
fun, and spontaneous stuff. That's great.
I want the fun bunch. I want the Smurfs. I want
That's
the
fine.
Yankee
I got no
Shuffle.
problem
I want
with
all
that.
that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Right. I hope
But when
that
you're
doesn't
doing
go
it
away.
in front, doing it specifically in front, you're waving the ball in front of the cornerback's face. Or
Right,
you're,
right.
You know,
the crotch on the face.
yeah,
move.
you
Right.
sack the quarterback and you get up and like no.
That's different than TJ's kick or whatever.
Yeah, those are just
just be
it's
fun,
not even
right.
such it's spontaneous, but it's a celebration. I have no problem with that.
I don't either.
Just
I
doing
hope
it-
it never goes away.
Doing it at somebody else is what I have a problem with.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
You can
I agree.
celebrate a great play, but don't turn around and flex at my dugout.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah. That's different.
That's different.
That's below the belt.
Yeah. Anyways,
There you have it.
let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. That's going to do it for hour number 1. We'll be back with hour number 2 right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And no, folks, I've never advocated for a player to hurt somebody else. That's never been the. Anyway,
Sometimes things happen.
sometimes stuff happens. And here we are, top of hour number 2. Charles Davis on NFL.com has a new mock draft out.
Okay. See where Jackson Dart ends up. 21st.
I have not looked at this one. He has Cam Ward going number 1 overall
Cool.
for the Titans.
It's a wrap.
Yeah.
So along those lines, I think it's pretty obvious that 2 hours after the pro day is when Russell Wilson signs with the Giants. The Giants are like, that door's shut. We're not getting to one.
We're not getting
Right.
to that one.
Right.
We're-
It was hours after the
well,
pro
there was
day.
a report out that from Tennessee that the Titans are going to take Ward, or it's going to take a massive package for somebody
Yeah.
to come up. And
I was
not gonna
asked
do
that
it.
today. They're like, what would the Saints have to give up to go to 1? I'm like, Carr, Olave, their first, their second, next year's first, and then that might get them in the door.
I don't even know if that would get it done.
I don't think it would.
I don't think it would either.
Right.
The Browns then take Shedeur Sanders at 2.
Okay. I think that's a mistake, but I could absolutely see it happening. I think he goes 2 or 3.
At 3, the Giants take Abdul Carter. Penn State's pro day is today.
I wonder if he's not doing anything.
He's not doing anything because he's got a stress issue in his foot.
Yeah. I mean,
Kinda-
does he even weighed in? I don't even know how big he is exactly.
I would assume he would do that today, but
Yeah.
he ended the season with the shoulder injury,
Mm-hmm.
and now he's got a stress fracture or something of the sort in his foot.
I mean, I understand all 3 of those picks, but to me, Hunter is by far the best player in this draft. And if you get him at 4.
For the Giants, they've got edge rushers.
I think you then trade Thibodeau immediately because it's 5th-year option time for him, and maybe you can try to turn Thibodeau, your second and future picks, into Dart. You know?
Maybe.
Yeah, still. But at least you have quarterbacks now that are NFL guys.
The Patriots then take Travis Hunter at 4.
They should do cartwheels if that happens.
Yeah. And he would be a wide receiver.
You're receiver first, and then
yeah.
At
5, the Jaguars take Armand Membo.
I think he's a better prospect than Graham. Graham's the chalk there, but Graham D tackle's a bigger need. I wouldn't love it if I'm them though.
No, I wouldn't either. It's kind of no man's land.
It's starting to be the beginning of no man's land.
Would somebody trade up to that spot, even if it's just moving up a couple of spots to take Genty?
Maybe. What if you're the Bears?
And you
just to get ahead of the Raiders.
Genty's the final piece to the puzzle here.
Right.
If we get Genty, we can compete for.
I'm thinking about
the
teams
NFC
that wouldn't
North.
have to move far. Like I'm not talking about like Broncos.
No, they're not.
Like,
That's
future first and things like that.
You're not doing that for a running back. But if you can give up,
if you're Dallas or the Bears, and you can give up your second,
Bears have 2 seconds,
and they're short on picks, but other than that, because they used them all on those linemen, but they do have 2 seconds, I think. Yeah, maybe. If you're pretty convinced the Raiders are going to take them, which I would understand.
And if you're the Jaguars, taking Membo at 10
or Campbell
makes a hell of a lot more sense than taking him at 5
or Graham or right, 100%. I wonder if people get crazy and say, "I'm going to call the Jags to get Dart." If you're the Jets, if you're the Saints,
maybe.
This is how it works with quarterbacks.
Yeah.
You know.
And to me, Membo. He might be a guard.
He might be.
You going to take a guard 5th overall?
There's no blue chippers in this class.
I get it.
Who would you take if you were the Jags GM? Would you take Graham?
I think Graham is pretty safe.
I definitely think he's safe.
Yeah.
And your D-line would be pretty
better.
darn good.
It would be better than what I think he's going to be a good player. I don't know if he's going to be a great player, but I know he's going to be at least good.
There's not a great fit, though. I mean, if Will Johnson was the corner that was clean as could be.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe that happens when
maybe
he has his pro day and he runs a 4.45 and everybody's like, okay, he's
back.
fine.
Yeah. I mean, they've been looking for a second corner forever.
Yeah. The Raiders then take Ashton Genty at 6.
I wouldn't give them any hard time for that at all. You're not passing up a elite edge rusher or an elite tackle, you know.
But you are getting an elite running back.
Be the second best player in this draft.
Yeah.
You know?
At 7, the Jets take Tyler Warren.
Okay. I could absolutely see that.
At 8.
I guess they loved Bowers a year ago, too.
Yeah.
You know.
At 8, the Panthers take Mason Graham.
I would think they'd be pretty happy about that.
Defensive tackle out of Michigan.
You put him next to they signed a D tackle or two, but you put him next to Brown. That's still it's a strength.
And we're assuming Brown comes back.
I think he's supposed to be
what he is.
Yeah.
Or what he was, I should say.
He's a really good player.
Maybe you could get him off of them.
Ooh, I'd be really doing that.
Coming back off the injury.
Yeah.
Well, he's 30, and we don't know if we want to pay him.
Right. Well, they just paid the signing bonus for him, too.
At 9, the Saints take Will Campbell, the offensive lineman out of LSU.
For him, even if he's not a tackle, he'll be one of their starting linemen forever.
I still think he's a tackle. I mean, you don't start in the SEC as a true freshman at left tackle. I don't care how long your arms are. He started at LSU from day one at left tackle. He's a tackle.
I wonder if you take Fuaga and move him to right. That just happened to Latham. You know,
maybe. Maybe.
Put Campbell at left. The Bayou Connection LSU guy.
At 10, the Bears then take Jalen Walker, edge rusher out of Georgia.
I don't love what they did with their D-line. They spent a lot of money on D-line and got moderately better, but I didn't see any difference makers there.
Which is what that was the market the Steelers would have been in.
I know.
To do that.
Right. Got some guys that are okay. Yeah. I like what they did on their O-line, but their D-line, I'm like,
At that
that's
point,
a lot of money for a little bit of improvement. Right.
You know?
Yeah.
At 11, the 49ers take Mike Green, the edge rusher out of Marshall.
I can see that. I think when I do part 2 of my edge rushers, I think he's going to be number 2. I had him 4.
I think I had him up pretty high.
I think you had him 3 when we talked through it because I had Stewart ahead of him, and I regretted that. I think I'm going to have him ahead of the Bama kids, too.
I think he's pretty good.
Yeah.
At 12, the Cowboys have Teteroa McMillan, Arizona wide receiver.
I'm definitely going to have Golden ahead of him, too. It took me a while to get there, but I would take Golden there over McMillan.
I could see the Cowboys, though, wanting a guy like McMillan over Golden.
I think because Lamb is so versatile, it almost doesn't matter. I can build that puzzle to some degree.
But Golden's kind of a similar player to Lamb.
I just like Golden better outside the numbers and the speed thing. Both would work. McMillan's been bugging me because everyone's talking about Mike Evans and London.
Yeah.
I think he's Pittman. I mean, he's more of a possession. He's not as bursty as any of those guys, and he's not that fast.
Yeah, that's my problem.
Yeah.
At 13, the Dolphins take Will Johnson, cornerback out of Michigan.
Okay. Their defense is in really bad shape.
That would be the second time they've taken a cornerback in the last 3 years in the first round?
They took that dude's name I can never pronounce at 32 way back when.
They took one out of South Carolina.
Oh, yeah. That was also a late pick. He was Rush's buddy.
Yeah. Hasn't really worked out.
No, I'm not sure where.
But it was injuries.
Was he injured all last year? I think so.
There's been some injuries there. 14, the Colts take Colston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan.
Fine.
I think they need a defensive.
I would go interior O-line maybe over that too, a Booker or somebody like that.
15, the Falcons take Mykel Williams, edge rusher out of Georgia.
Mike Green was gone.
16, the Cardinals take Kelvin Banks Jr., offensive tackle out of Texas.
They've quietly put a lot of resources, 3rd, 4th, 5th round picks into O-line. One more addition, you might be real set there.
Yeah.
I think Paris Johnson's going to be a star.
Yeah. At 17, the Bengals take Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle out of Michigan.
Perfectly fine. We all love him.
Yeah.
Edge is just uglier than D tackle for them.
Yeah, they just drafted a defensive tackle early last year.
Mm-hmm. From Michigan.
Yeah. At 18, the Seahawks take Jahdae Barron, cornerback out of Texas.
He's one of those guys I don't know that I would ever be critical of anyone that took him.
Maybe
even
anywhere.
including the Steelers.
Yeah.
I just think he's
so
good and
he's
so
a good
versatile.
player.
Yeah.
And there is a path for him to play right away.
Any team he goes to.
Yeah.
Yep.
At 19, the Buccaneers take Jihad Campbell, Alabama linebacker.
Super chalky.
Yeah. At 20, the Broncos take Amarian Hampton, running back
also
out of North Carolina.
Pretty chalky.
Would somebody try to bump ahead of Denver to get Amarian Hampton?
Who was 19 again?
Seattle. Tampa and Seattle.
Yeah, maybe.
I could see that happening.
Yeah, I could see that, yeah.
Especially,
I think he's clearly number 2.
Yeah.
In most drafts would not be number 1.
At 21,
Jackson Dart.
He has the Steelers taking Jackson Dart.
That's becoming chalky, unfortunately.
Nationally.
Unfortunately for our...
I just don't see it.
It doesn't make good radio for us to say the same thing over and over.
No.
I feel like the Titans last year with Joe Alt.
At 22, the Chargers take Matthew Golden, wide receiver out of Texas.
Great. You're a little small at receiver, but great. I mean, again, I think he's a good player.
At 23, the Packers take Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon.
They could use him.
Would have been a good pick for the Steelers.
Yeah. As would have Nolan.
At 24, the Vikings take Malachi Starks, safety out of Georgia.
I like one of those safeties going there a lot.
Yeah. He's more Harrison Smith-like.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways.
More cerebral.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
At 25, the Texans take Tyler Booker, the guard out of Alabama.
He'd be a starter from day one and help them a lot.
Yeah. At 26, the Rams take Donovan Jackson, offensive lineman out of Ohio State.
I don't think they would do that. I think that's about where he should go. I think he's a really good player. But they just traded a guard because they love Avila.
They have too many, yeah.
Yeah, they were good there,
Yeah, unless they think he's going to be a tackle.
Well, they kept the left tackle and Havenstein's
the
right.
Boom's gone, though.
Boom's gone. Maybe Havenstein's not going to be there
You're not
long.
going to take a swing player in the first round.
I would go corner or something there.
At 27, the Ravens take Shamar Stewart, defensive lineman out of Texas A&M.
Kind of like the Oway pick.
Yeah.
Traits.
At 28, the Lions take James Pierce Jr., edge rusher out of Tennessee.
I could absolutely see that because they don't even need him to be an early down run defender.
Yeah.
Just close out games for us in the dome.
Get the quarterback. Right. At 29, the Commanders take Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver out of Ohio State.
I think they had their pro day yesterday or today or something.
Yesterday.
I think he ran like right around 4.5-ish or something like that.
It was 4.48, I believe.
Yeah,
so you can add
track.
add that 0.05 to it. So he's a 4.5, low 4.5 guy.
That adds up. Where'd he go? Washington. Yeah, they're a little old with Debo and McLaurin.
At 30, the Bills take Maxwell Hairston, Kentucky cornerback.
Okay. Yeah, corner's a problem. I almost think that has to be defense.
Yeah. At 31, the Chiefs take Josh Simmons, offensive tackle out of Ohio State.
That's a gift for them.
Oh,
unless he can't play all year.
Yeah.
Moore can hold down the fort. You overpaid for him. Maybe you could even move away from Taylor, get out from under that contract when he's ready. That'd be wonderful.
And at 32, the Eagles take Nick Emuwari, safety out of South Carolina.
Not their style to spend on a safety, but it's one of their weaker position areas.
Walter Nolan was still there.
Yeah, they would not pass on with the D-line.
I just don't see it.
Yeah. No.
I mean, again, I've done multiple checks on Walter Nolan's background stuff, just all kinds of stuff, as much as I can. I'm finding nothing there.
Nobody has he remember this incident and this incident, or he stole the crab, or whatever it was that Jameis did. I mean, there's nothing documented.
Nothing.
Maybe he's just a bad interview. I don't know. Maybe he's no fun to be around. I don't know, but he can play.
He can play,
and I have not seen any red flag of note.
Maybe we'll hear something different between now and the draft. Maybe not, but I just wonder if some of this is smoke screens to, people talk, well, you guys were hard on Shedeur Sanders. Just telling you what we heard.
Mm-hmm.
In this instance, he's got some off-field stuff. Well, tell me what it is.
I'd love to know. Right.
I would love to know.
Yeah. Maybe it's a character flaw, or he's, doesn't work hard. I don't know.
I don't know what it is.
I'm sure there's a lot of best recruits in the country that don't have to work super hard. I'm not saying he's even that. When you're way more talented than everybody else, it comes pretty easy for you.
I know he's pretty good. The tape was really good last year.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But
I couldn't imagine the Eagles letting him go past.
They take big guys like crazy.
Yeah.
That was Charles Davis, and they've also got a situation where they're not gonna pick up the option on Jordan Davis.
No, he's not a great pick for them.
No,
right.
I know they won a Super Bowl with him. He makes a play every once in a while because he's playing next to Carter.
Carter's
he's a 50% player. They're not going to pay him $20+ million a year.
No way.
For what he does.
Unless he has an unbelievable year.
Yeah.
Is he up for this year?
After this, is it this year he's up?
I think they have a year to make that decision.
Yeah. But he's still, they're not going to do it.
No way.
No. And that was Charles Davis's latest mock draft on NFL.com. That was 2.0 for him.
Mm-hmm. We would have taken Nolan.
I would have taken Nolan.
Yeah.
I would have taken Harmon over over the quarterback.
Yeah.
Either one.
Oh, for sure.
So anyways, let's get to a break here. He is the Matt Williamson. I'm Dale Lolley. This is The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. And, of course, you can hear The Drive every Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. right here on these very airwaves. You can also download the Steelers mobile app and get it there, which you might want to do for this weekend if you don't want to have to take time away from whatever you're doing. We'll be on
maybe out doing some yard work on a nice weekend.
3-hour
Drive, right.
extravaganza.
We're going to let Max Starks join
Sunday,
us for an hour.
Monday, and Tuesday of next week from West Palm Beach. And then we'll be back in Pittsburgh on the rest of the week here from back of 4 to 6. But you can also watch along on YouTube.
I say that's on video, right?
That'll be video down there. And you can leave us your comments, give us a thumbs up on the video.
Sounds like Tuesday might have a little weather issues.
Sunday, actually.
Sundays,
actually. Yeah, some weather down there, thunderstorms and things of that nature. So we'll see how that goes. But we'll be back with more right after this. And welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And earlier in the show today, Matt, I sent out the bat signal.
Oh,
I forgot it was Twitter Thursday.
Twitter Thursday, let's go.
So I'm jumping onto the X Twitter here, and we're going to get to some people's questions here, as many as we can before the end of the show. And T. Hamlin asks, do you think they'll ride with Mason and use that money to pay T.J. Watt? No, I do not.
No, I don't.
They're going to pay T.J. Watt's money isn't going to affect this year's salary cap.
No, it'll help it, if anything.
If anything, it's going to give them more.
Depending when
cash.
they do it and all that. It'll affect next year's, but they have so much extra.
And any money that you save this year, you can roll over into next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's not one or the other.
No, it really isn't.
It's all budgeted. There's tons of space for either.
Yeah.
In both.
And no, I don't think they'll ride with Mason.
No.
Unless that
would either. I mean, Rodgers could retire, and who knows?
Right.
But I'm sure that there are other avenues.
If that were the instance, if Rodgers did decide no, I'm not going to play, they would explore other avenues,
100%.
Trading for Cousins or trading for Carr.
Those are the two names I've thrown around. Right. I don't think it'll be Flacco.
Paul asks, going all in on Matt's build the nest theory. Would you take an offensive tackle in round 1 since we can get good DTs and running backs in the mid rounds? I would not. No.
No. I mean, if Jonathan Ogden was sitting there, I would.
That's
but
different.
Not in this class.
Well, not at this point because he's like 45.
Right. Well, he's pretty good. I know. I mean,
it's not a great offensive tackle.
It's not a great tackle class. That means you're not taking a D tackle in round 1. And trust me, I'm always in favor of grabbing offensive tackles because they don't depreciate, and we went all through that. But no, not in round 1.
Marco A. Romero Navarro asks, assuming Rodgers plays with the Steelers in 2025, is there a way the front office can go all in this year and also prepare the next plan presented by Matt? Well, yeah. I think that's what they're
very much
doing.
laid it out, right? I mean, that's a Metcalf move. We even talked about this, and I don't feel super strong about it. But yes, I want to draft a running back. But if you sign J.K. Dobbins and for whatever reason you don't get the back you want in the draft, you'd still be a pretty good football team. You know what I mean? I mean, you're going to add all those guys that were rookies last year into the mix that weren't around. I think Slay's got a lot left in the tank. I think the roster, quarterback aside, is noticeably better now than when they saw it. And if you get a good version of Rodgers, I could write a story where they win a playoff game.
Look where they went 10-7 last year.
Yeah.
With quarterback play that at times was good.
Mm-hmm.
At other times, again, people miscast what the first 6 games of the season looked like with Justin Fields.
Yeah.
They were throwing for about 170 yards a game.
We had a good chat with Labs yesterday.
They had 5 touchdown passes.
Mm-hmm.
5.
Right,
in 6 games.
They're not slinging it all over the field.
They were not.
Right.
It was a carryover of what they had been doing with Kenny Pickett. They have a formula that they know how to win those kind of games.
Yeah.
The idea is not to have to win those kind of games.
If Rodgers is a Steeler, as mentioned here, they're not going to throw 5 touchdowns in the first 6 games.
No.
There's not. I mean, Wilson wouldn't have either.
Right.
Right.
Justin Grove asks.
So I think that's the beauty of where they're at.
Right.
I think you can live for today while still really building
for tomorrow.
nest.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's what the last 2 drafts have really been about.
Exactly. It's been very much that way. Setting up for that day.
Oh, Justin Grove asks, do you think Ty Robinson, it's my guy,
It's a good dude,
defensive tackle from Nebraska, would be a mid-round steal for the Steelers? Would the Dean of Doom approve of that pick? Drake had great draft coverage again this year. I've been a Ty Robinson fan from the beginning of this whole process. He was one of the first guys I watched in this class just because the first thing that I look for when I'm looking at defensive linemen in particular, do they have the height-weight combo?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay. So I
check.
I pull out the list of here are the guys that were draft available this year. And I start watching tape of them. I'm like, oh, this guy's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll start looking where he's ranked at. I'm like, why is he in the 7th round of these?
Yeah.
I don't get it. And then you see him creeping up. He may end up going in the 3rd round.
Yeah. What I was going to say about it is I agree with everything you said. Now, he would not be my answer of they took Dart in the 1st, that I'll just take him in the 3rd and my problems are solved.
Yeah.
I mean, no, he's not the next Cam Hayward.
Right.
But he could be really useful and hard to play against. And if I took Grant in the 1st and then I took him in the 4th, now you're cooking.
Now
now you have the D-line exactly where you want it.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see.
And that should be the goal.
That should be the goal.
Yeah.
Paul asks, again, another question from Paul. This is his second question. Wild hypothetical. Steelers end up with Dart, Shuck, or Milroe this season, they become the starter and go 10-8 with the quarterback play roughly equivalent to what Fields or Russ gave us last year. Do they still go all in on a quarterback or in the better class of 2026? Well, first of all, we don't know that the class next year is going to be better than this one.
Right.
And if one of those guys becomes your starter and you win 10 games,
all bets are off.
All bets are off.
I mean,
you're going to roll with that.
Unless you're dragging them along. But if they're helping, I mean, if they could be the answer, you hit the lottery.
Right.
And then you're thrilled.
Yeah.
Or even if you took Milroe in the third and he showed you enough.
Yeah.
That you say, maybe we'll postpone this Rolex trip till a year from now.
But I also don't see that hypothetical happening.
Well, I don't think they'll go 10-8.
But first of all,
in a 17-game season.
To draft Dart, they would have to do so. Well, really, to draft Dart or Shuck, they would have to do so in the first round.
I think so, too, yeah.
And to get Milroe would have to be probably in the third round. He probably doesn't last to their fourth-round pick.
Right.
So I just don't see that happening.
That's the thing, right. I mean, maybe there's weird trade downs and you end up with different spots in the draft and you can grab Shuck at 35 or something. I'd like that. But, that's probably not this year's goal.
Yeah. Our next question is, how much improvement or lack thereof do you expect from the back seven on the D this season? I wonder if part of the issue has been the lack of continuity. Slay may know everything to play in our D, but how quickly can he learn his teammates and build chemistry?
That doesn't worry me.
I'm not concerned about that. And
no.
I didn't see the secondary as necessarily a problem last year.
I wasn't a Jackson fan.
There were issues there. There were issues in the slot.
Yeah. I think both those positions are better.
Yeah.
They're not Rod Woodson, but they're better.
They're better.
Yeah. I expect the linebacker play to be equal or maybe better. I'm basing that off Wilson.
Yeah.
And I do think second-year Queen should be better than first-year Queen.
Yeah. I just think there were so many new pieces last year that's when you see the miscommunication issues. But here's the thing about the miscommunication issues. Every single team has them.
I was going to say, I don't think it was worse than the average.
Yeah. When Baltimore was giving up 300 yards every week, it was because they were having miscommunication issues.
That was way below the bar. Right?
Yeah, and it took them 2/3 of the season to figure it out. They finally did when they kind of dumbed things down a little bit.
Yeah.
And, oh, by the way, put Malik Harrison in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
Because he knew where he was supposed to be at.
He's a communication guy and all that stuff, too. I'm almost ready to say that the back seven is done. If you added one little something or a piece after the draft, small potatoes, or a corner you can't believe is there in the third round you took, fine. But I also think the back seven will be an above-average group, but it probably won't be the reason you have a terrible season or a Super Bowl winning season either.
The key is, the other thing is, they're built to take the ball away. That's what they do.
Which is based off the pass rush.
Which is based off the pass rush, which is based on having guys who put themselves in position to take the ball away.
Team speed's a lot better.
And they've been really
Spade.
good at it over the last 3 or 4 years. Yes, every team gives up plays.
Of course.
It's just the reality of today's NFL. The rules are set up against those guys in the back seven. But if you take the football away, that's better than a punt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's part of the formula.
Yeah.
That's the big reason why they end up in the playoffs.
They've morphed what they want at cornerback away from, like Ike Taylor couldn't play on this particular team.
Right.
Or that style of cornerback.
What they'd be after, right.
It's not what they're after. They want guys who take the football away.
Absolutely.
It's not, we'll take this cornerback in the 4th or 5th round, and we just want him to come up and tackle the catch.
Yeah.
Those days are over.
Those days are over, right.
Mike Price asks, with depth of the defensive line class, would it not be beneficial to go after a top-flight corner in round 1 like Will Johnson or Barron? I don't see either one of those guys being available at 21.
And I would understand that path.
Yeah.
Because they're really good, and Slay's a rental, and, they're probably better than the 21st, to your point, better than the 21st overall player.
If you still had a second-round pick, I would agree with that a little bit more, but you don't.
You don't. I mean, because you're going to be lacking on we've talked about this. I mean, it's a choose-your-own adventure, and you went down the wrong road to begin with. It's hard to get back on the path.
Yeah. Short Jr. asks if they take someone like Shuck or McCord in the 3rd or 4th round, will they still trade up for a quarterback they like in the 1st round next year? First of all, Shuck's not going to be available in the 3rd or 4th round. And no, McCord or whoever would not keep you from taking a quarterback next year. Any quarterback you take in round 4 or 3, 3's a little different, but not much. But if you take one round 4 or later, the idea is that guy's a potential backup.
And I like some of those dudes. We've talked about them a lot. We've drafted them a lot. Not Shuck. I'm talking about McCord and Rourke and Howard, et cetera. But I think you got Rudolph for that. If you don't take one this year at all, I understand. I want one that could maybe be a guy. And, okay, let's say you take McCord in the 4th. He'd have to have a Dak Prescott rookie year.
Yeah.
Which I don't even know how he sees the field. You know what I mean? He'd have to blow your doors away to change your quarterback outlook, I think.
Yeah. Mark Miller asks, if Rodgers wasn't an option, who would you choose? Carr, Cousins, other, or roll with Mason in a mid-round pick?
The door number D is my last choice.
Yeah.
And I understand it. You'd have a ton of cap space, and I don't think he'd embarrass himself. That's not a knock on Mason. And it wouldn't be somebody else would be in the room. 2 other guys would be. Carr versus Cousins is a question to me. I don't know. I have my Cousins played better than people think. I have my doubts how well he'd hold up for 17 games.
That's the problem I have with Cousins. I just don't know that he's going to last 17 games.
Yeah.
He didn't have prime mobility
ever
before the injury.
Right.
He really doesn't have it now.
No, and I do think he'd get the ball out on time better, and the line would look better than it did this past year.
But at some point,
and his high points are still pretty strong.
Yeah.
You can win games. I always thought Carr was a little underrated. He just doesn't move the needle a ton.
Yeah.
And I don't think he'd be real expensive to get. But he's also not a real risk taker either. I mean, I could make the argument that those guys aren't a ton different than what you played with this past year in terms of quality. But I'd rather just roll the dice and see Rodgers, what he might be. And part of that's just for my viewing pleasure as a fan, because it could be crazy. Right?
I mean, I get what he's saying here.
Yeah, I know.
Is Mason Rudolph all that much different than Carr and Cousins would look?
I get that
in
a
your
lot.
offense?
I'm sure you do too. And one of them's cheaper, and right.
Yeah. And everybody waxes poetically about romantically about the 3 games he started at the end of.
And they were good.
And he was good. He was better than what they were playing with before that. He was willing to throw the ball down the field. He was willing to do some of those things.
Well.
But it still ended up with you getting beat in the first round of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I don't know that Rodgers can get you over that hump, or Carr or Cousins if you have to go into Buffalo or whatever. But I'll take my chances with them ahead of Rudolph.
Again, it's like playing. Let's make a deal.
Yeah,
I know where this path leads me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take door number 2 and take my chances and see where this one goes.
Me too. I would much rather roll the dice with Cousins, Carr, or Rodgers than Rudolph to win a playoff.
My only problem is that Carr and Cousins don't exactly have a stellar track record.
They don't have MVPs and rings, and
they don't even have playoff wins.
Right. I know. I mean, the options aren't great. We knew that with them the second the season ended.
Yeah.
And I don't think Fields would have got you any different, or Wilson, to be honest with you.
Betchberg asks, where would Troy Fautanu rank in this year's offensive tackle class? Well, we answered that during the combine. He'd be number 1.
He's number 1 for me.
Yeah, he would be number 1.
Yep.
And that's not just us saying that. You look at the grading systems that are out there, he would be the number 1 tackle in this year's draft.
Membo and Campbell might be guards when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Fautanu is way better length than those guys, and
it's
every bit
extreme length. Yeah, and he's taller than them. Yeah, he's got better length. He's just a better player. I know
he had some knee stuff though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that he has this.
None of these guys are 100% clean.
Right. I don't think he had red flags though coming out. I mean, I don't think he fell because of medical.
He didn't fall. It was just
awesome.
An awesome tackle class. Right. Yeah, and he was the shortest of the group, and that's when people say, well, maybe he's a guard because he was 6'4" instead of 6'6".
And frankly, Latham would be 1. Alt would be 1. I mean, like, he's not the only one of last year.
All 5 of those guys that went early last year would be number 1.
Fuaga, but maybe.
Yeah,
right.
Matthew says, no question. just really enjoy the show. Well, we
Hey.
appreciate that, Matthew.
We'll tell you.
Did you
chime
do
in
that?
anytime?
Did you do that one? Is that...
Yeah, that was me. When I was getting coffee last time. Yeah.
Let's get to one more here before we get to a break, and we'll finish up the rest of these questions coming back. Brad Prentice says, tinfoil hat time. I know you love these. Is it plausible that the Steelers are eyeing the 26th draft as early as last summer for quarterback? Knowing Daniels and Moore would leave and bring 2 comps, they also planned on losing Russ and Justin for third-round compensatories. Well, I don't think they're going to get those. Is that maybe why they didn't pick up the option on Najee? Yeah, I don't see them thinking that. They made
I was going to
offers.
say the opposite.
I don't think that was the case at all.
I
think if
read the question again, please.
Their idea, and I heard this from people, if Russell Wilson or Justin Fields were awesome last year,
they would be.
They would be.
Down. Yeah.
They would have signed them to a contract extension.
Okay. See, I kind of read that.
They didn't go into this season. You have this in your hip pocket, knowing that if these guys leave, you're going to get compensatory picks back.
That's where I was going with it. But
that wasn't the plan. Like, we can just do this, and we're just going to let these guys leave and get these compensatory picks because, again, 2026 is a great quarterback. Nobody knows what the 2026 quarterback
That's what I was going to say, too. I'm like, no way were they saying that's the year we have to target a quarterback. But there is a big plan in place, contrary to popular belief, that the Steelers have a plan. I always get that all the time. This team has no plan, especially at quarterback position. Yeah, they're just rolling the dice and hoping good things happen. But part of the plan is they're putting money in the bank with comp picks. And I think Omar is very conscious of that. And it was hard to do in year 1 and 2 because you didn't have the Dan Moore that you knew was leaving because you drafted the 2 tackles. You know what I mean? Like, that's part of – I bet that crossed his mind.
They knew Daniels and Moore were leaving.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't know what those guys were going to get paid on the open market.
Of course.
Nobody knows. You don't know what that market's going to look like until they actually – I was thinking – I can remember we talked about it before the season. Well, when Dan Moore leaves, he's going to get more money than people think it. I'm thinking 15.
I was thinking 12. right, exactly. Like, decent buck and maybe get a 4th or 5th round comp pick out of it. But where I was going with it is I bet 1 year ago in their draft room – Omar or someone says, if we take one of these tackles, not only are we going to get a guy we like, but it's going to also give us a little cherry on top in 2 years. They're aware of this stuff.
Yeah.
And same with Najee. If we don't pick this up, someone's going to pay him. We'll draft a back. They don't know if this is even a good running back class.
And the thing with Najee and that option,
just gives you options.
We've gone over the option stuff with this. Not only are you guaranteeing that last year of the deal,
right,
at $7 million. You're essentially guaranteeing both years of the deal at the running back position.
Exactly.
And unless that guy is Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey, it just doesn't make sense.
I guess a better way even talking about Najee is when the 2024 season ended, all right, what's our team building philosophy? Okay, well, if he leaves, somebody's going to pay him more than $5 million, and we're going to get a pick back.
Well,
I just think they're very aware of the comp pick.
He mentions 5 different guys here. You can only get 4 compensatory picks.
Right.
So all of those guys leaving doesn't factor into this.
Mm-hmm.
4 of them does.
Right.
It just so happens that Daniels, Moore, Russell, and Justin are the guys that you're going to get. You're not getting a comp pick back now from Najee Harris. You're not.
Right.
His deal doesn't even factor into this. A, it was a 1-year deal, and B, it wasn't that much money.
It's not a huge contract, right?
Yeah.
No, but I just think they'll be more comp pick aware than they have been. I very much believe that to be true.
I think all teams are doing that. That's why you're seeing guys signed to 1 year and 2 year deals because everybody wants to get into that game.
Yeah. I think it's a really untapped market, or not untapped market, but I think you can really do well with.
I think it was last week at this time I went through and counted the 4 and 5 year deals given out, which is where you're really scoring in the comp picks, and there were only 8 in the entire NFL.
Yeah, wow. I remember us going over that. Was like a week ago.
So, I just think everybody's more cognizant of that comp pick game. But quarterbacks are always they're like offensive linemen and quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Those guys are going to be valued more than.
That's the beauty of. It's never a terrible idea to grab one on the cheap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, weird example. Like, let's say they fall into a guard in training camp, and they're like, man, someone just offered us a 6th-round pick for Siamalu. That sounds great. Or you can have him on the team for a year, and he might give you a 4th-round pick.
Right.
When he hits the open market.
Somebody might give
James
him 12,
Daniels.
Somebody might give him $12 million a year next year, or $10 million. Like James Daniels got, 3 years, $24 million?
That yields you a nice pick.
Yeah.
You're right. It's a year you got to wait, but so what?
As we
You
saw
did it
this,
the year before,
as we
you
saw
don't
this
even
past season when we were trading offensive linemen in training camp, no, they needed all those guys.
Exactly right. I mean, if they all start going down, then you're the one calling, and then you're in trouble.
Yeah, now you're trading picks away to get somebody else's seventh offensive lineman.
Why I just want to keep drafting them.
Yeah.
I'll just keep drafting them. There's a shortage.
Anyways, let's get to a break. We'll get back to more questions when we return. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. This is The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, the owner of his very own hot dog roller.
Yeah, we were saying it's opening day. I should have busted out the hot dog roller.
Anyways, let's
brought
get
him
back
into the drive. Have it sitting right here, just spinning.
Let's get back to the Twitter questions here before we run out of time. RJ Poirier asks, who are your top 3 or third round or later running backs, assuming the Steelers take one in the third round as we sit here with today's current picks?
I'm not going to put Johnson in that mix or the Ohio State guys.
I don't know if they make it that far to 83.
Scatterbo Martinez come to mind.
Yeah. Jordan James is a guy that has some, even though he didn't run super
he
well.
tested poor, but I like this
He's
tape.
a good player.
There's so many of those backs, like Kyron Williams, that test poor, they're good players.
Jarquez Hunter's a good player.
Yeah. I still have an eye on Tootin and Sampson. I mean, just because of their explosiveness.
Yeah.
Teach them not to fumble, especially Tootin. Martinez would be my short answer, I think.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, too.
I think he'd be a really good Steeler. 4th round.
Yeah. Cola Chris 76 asks, if Nolan Harmon and Grant are all drafted by the time the Steelers pick at 21, would you pivot to cornerback or look to trade down towards the end of the first round and possibly take one of the Ohio State running backs?
That'd be a nightmare scenario for me.
Well, if for all 3 of those guys to go earlier, somebody else is falling that you would think somebody would want to come up and get. Will Johnson still there, or
an edge rusher,
Jody Barron, or edge rushers,
somebody like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's real easy to. We don't have much time, but it's real easy. I would trade down. I don't know who's trading up necessarily, but there would be somebody odd there.
Yeah,
Loveland or Warren or they'd be like, okay, I
could use that.
Yeah. Barron,
Andrew Kwiatkowski asked, if the Steelers don't draft a defensive lineman in round 1, what position do you think is most likely? Running back.
Hampton.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be the name. If it was not even position, if they said, what name would you say? I would say Hampton.
Yeah.
Barron?
Maybe Barron.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could
I bet they have a high grade on him.
Right, yeah, there's a lot to like.
Yeah.
Steeler Chick Pittsburgh, PGH asks, do you know why the Steelers are still waiting for Aaron Rodgers and why Rodgers won't make his decision? Is Mason Rudolph starter material?
Well, they have more information on this situation than we do.
If anybody knows what's going through the mind of Aaron Rodgers,
right,
please inform the rest of the world because nobody knows.
The Steelers might.
I'm sure they
know more than we do.
Russell Wilson, Russell Wilson didn't wait all this time on the Steelers to then suddenly this week go, okay, I'm going to go sign with the Giants.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
somebody told him something.
I think there's this crazy misconception that Rodgers is holding the strings up here and he's just dangling the Steelers along for the ride, and they have no thoughts or any input in this situation. I don't think that's the case.
He didn't fly across the country, spend 6 hours here, and then fly back across the country if he wasn't intent on playing football.
And if something crazy, like he went to the Vikings, I don't think the Steelers got played or anything. I mean, like, they're on top of the situation.
Chris Maxwell asked, Tomlin motto, that he would rather have volunteers instead of hostages. The Steelers are playing the comp game. Hypothetical, if Pickens comes in disgruntled, does Tomlin change his stance? And do you guys think that players take advantage of this if they want out?
I think it can be a slippery slope in sports in general when someone's like, I'm not happy here, I want to trade. And then the guy next to him's like, I'm not saying the Steelers, this organization stinks, I want to trade too.
You draw the line when Mike Tomlin says that. Think about who he has said that about over the years.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't been starters.
Right.
They've been depth pieces, backup guys, Melvin Ingram.
It wasn't LeGarrette Blount.
LeGarrette Blount. Like these are not foundational guys. These are
the world's still spinning.
These are
without
bench
them,
players.
Right?
Even James Harrison at the end.
At the end, right?
Like these are guys
that
who
wasn't James
weren't,
after defensive MVP.
Yeah, these weren't starting players. So you have different. You say we'd rather have volunteers instead of hostages, but you're talking about different.
He didn't say about AB.
No,
when he was the
right.
first pick in fantasy drafts.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, Jimmy Johnson said it best. I mean,
you have different rules for different guys.
Michael Irvin can be late to the meeting, but the 53rd guy on the roster can't be. You know,
who was the Pitt running back who fell asleep in the meeting and they cut him immediately?
It wasn't Tony Dorsett.
It wasn't Tony Dorsett. You're right. That was kind of my point.
Yeah.
Who do you want the Steelers to take at quarterback next year if they don't take one this year?
I have no idea.
I have no idea, Jagersburg.
Right.
There's a whole lot of football to be played next year.
I know LSU has Nussmeier, and Penn State's got a guy. I'm not.
I don't like the Penn State quarterback at all.
I've hardly watched them. But yeah. I'm not that far ahead though.
Archie Wilson asks, when you look at the roster outside of Watt, Hayward, and Fitzpatrick, who are the potential cornerstones of the franchise in your mind? Joey Porter Jr. comes to mind.
Fautanu really comes to mind.
Comes to mind. Frazier's
already there.
Yeah.
You
you've got some guys. They didn't trade for DK Metcalf and pay him.
He still counts, even
a
though
lot
he's
of
older
money.
than those guys.
He's still only 27. Like you're going to get 3 or 4 years out of.
You get Pickens going down the right road, and everybody's there's no question he could be that guy.
Yeah.
Benton.
Yeah.
I mean, this time next year we might be like, oh, Benton's one of those guys.
Yeah, right.
We're projecting a little, but yeah.
And J.P. Bird.
Even like a Freiermuth still counts.
Yeah, I don't know if he's a franchise cornerstone, but he's a good football player.
Yeah, I mean, he's a building block.
Yeah. Obviously, on whether Rodgers signs, but say he does, I've been seeing heavy offensive line, defensive line. I still think with this running back heavy class, it's needed to take or to trade back and gain capital and take one of these running backs with the first 3 picks, maybe double dip later on. Thoughts? Well, we've done that quite a bit when we've done our mock drafts.
Where this is coming from is when I really went on this 4 lineman kick, I posted a mock draft that didn't have a running back. Now, we've done 8,000 mock drafts, and we always take a running back. And my preface was sign J.K. Dobbins right now, and I did it on purpose because the world would keep spinning if you missed out. But 99 out of 100 times, they're going to take a running back.
I think you just wait. First of all, if you sign J.K. Dobbins now that affects your comp formula.
Yeah. You might have a...
You'd wait until after the draft, and there's going to be guys available.
Then say that it could be Nick Chubb, it could be Dobbins, it could be anyone.
There'll be guys cut back after the after the draft when somebody we didn't expect to take a running back here, but here he is, and I don't need Miles Sanders anymore.
And I got a ton of blowback, like why would you sign J.K. Dobbins? He's injury prone. I'm like he would cost nothing.
Yeah,
I mean you could cut him before camp.
I think he played for the Chargers last year for like $3 million.
Right, that's a
he's
deal.
Not going to get that
sign.
much more than that.
He might give him
because of the injury history.
Exactly, and he was good. If you get 8 games out of him, fine. I mean, these aren't even like real investments.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's it for the Twitter questions there. That's all we have time for because we're at the end of the show.
Yeah, fun one today.
We'll do this again next Thursday. It's always good to hear from our public and what's on their minds, and they think of some things that we don't think of here to talk about. But for my partner, Matt Williamson, for Justin Miller here on site running the Justin Miller hotline and giving us updates on the Pirate game, and for Tyler Vittmeyer making sure the video gets out there onto YouTube. Give us a thumbs up there. I am Dale Lolley. We thank you for listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.